West till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. I be one west to the death till they bury me. One west till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. I be one west to the death till they bury me. I be one west to the death till they bury me. They ain't scaring me from the soul out of Pharisee. Speaking heresy and get you fucked up apparently. It's like they daring me. I said chill, they ain't hearing me. They ain't listening. Every bar nitroglycerin. Get your heart bringing back this talk, make you live again. Get a dividend till we start getting ignorant. I be on that soldier shit. I told you shit phenomenal. Novelty abdominal. So what you fucking trying to do? Rhyming comical. This is funny until I'm bombing you. Bring apocalypse to the pussy niggas is popping shit. See my all-stars, I post them up like a Popovich. Fuck the politics and the lobbyists and the apologists. They vagina, so we gon' check them like gynecologists. It's kinda obvious how the situation is. The way I rhyme it isn't regurgitate for the audience. They start applauding this cause the competition is fraudulent. From the era where niggas smoke you up like a politic. The flow into one west rising and prominent. Cause I be one west to the death till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. I be one west to the death till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. I be one west to the death till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. I be one west to the death till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. They want a nigga quiet, mute my maneuvers. But I rhyme like I got group eyes for Uber. Rhymes hard like the debut by Medusa. 9 milli Luger, 17 in the Ruger. Only need a few, consider me on the cooler. Obrigada, put a regatta, niggas wildin', they want every dollar. They ride by black Apollos, let the semi holler. The showstopper, then the stoppers in the titty bopper. But now I'm going up Patron and premium a vodka. I put stitches on the block, modify the chopper. The small baby, warm baby, and that's working mama. The marijuana say I got the love inside of it. When I'm a baller, ain't no rapper, do it like I do it. A lot of cities are writers, but when they eat, so none of them can get Bible ran with me, and I had a nigga spin like a tire, dead to beat, and I'm still throwing some paper. Every bar burn hard like a spoon with a lighter. You ignite, I'm winning, coming through with the title. You, I be one west to the death till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. I be one west to the death till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. I be one west to the death till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. I be one west to the death till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. We love to bombard their whole operation. Certified priest, prophesying is my occupation. This shit outrageous, they done made the truth us out. That's why we on the corner crying aloud, looking hostile. I.S.U.P.K style, they stop now. Father's warfare couldn't last one round. Let the oppressed rise, and let the rich mourn till the sundown. Enough with this shit about to make it hot, cold and compound. It's for my niggas, put the guns in the drugs down. Dwelling in peace in the Lord, call for the blood. Hey, try to decide my death and get beside yourself. Sworn drawn for what you perform. How you gon' hide yourself? Devil got to die for his lies and his dreams. Ain't got no love. And in my father's house is speeding mansions. Rubbing your bitches, this your death sentence. I'm talking real slaughter, yeah, slaughter, yeah, slaughter, yeah, slaughter, yeah, slaughter, yeah, slaughter, yeah, slaughter. The day do not run. Go in and fill the world with lies. And die for your skin, you gon' die for your crime. That's right off in the year. So war for your life. Try to destroy my people. You gotta pay the price, nigga. You gotta hear, let them hear. Till the devils let the Indians still. Slaughter, yeah, slaughter, yeah. Now, for vicious words out this hand and book. About to take these rappers back to school. My flow standing hook. They crossed the line, ain't no coming back. You became no cowards. The only thing sweet is the honey jet. Righteous is the Lord. Give me rest from my sorrow. And hand down death for them devils. There's no tomorrow. Why? Cause they violence leave a man a stiff corpse. You see a flag in the bed, I see horns in the pitchfork. So please believe it, the white man is a demon, and I ain't gon' go with him to free me. Till we, they call the purple, the spider snipe till they float like ceiling. You got this nigga on his knees, they wanna have peace. You screaming, let this bitch burn at 1,000 degrees. A man in the bosom of I told her I'd do anything she please as I squeeze on the devil D's. Fuck you mean? I'm talking real. Slaughter, yeah, slaughter, yeah, slaughter, yeah, slaughter, yeah, slaughter, yeah, slaughter. And not right and fill the world with lies. Ain't down for your skin, you gon' die for your crime. That's right off in the year. So your life, try to destroy my people. You gotta pay the price, nigga. You gotta hear, let them hear. Till the devils let the Indians still. Slaughter, yeah, slaughter, yeah.
for no apparent reason. No reason at all. They asked for license and registration. That's the police officer over there that did it with the black on. I can't really do shit because they got me cancer. I can't believe they just did this. I'm fucking back!
Shalom Israel. We are the I.S.U.P.K out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yohanna. I'm Priest and Officer Yakad, and tonight is our Lashawan Qadash, or we call the Holy Tongue. This is where we get back to understand and learn our culture, our history, and our language, most important. The Lashawan Qadash, which means Holy Tongue, which is the ancient Hebrew. All right, is what our forefathers spoke in ancient times, in the biblical times, right? The so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel, we spoke the Lashawan Qadash, or Holy Tongue, or we call ancient Hebrew. All right. So tonight, once more, we're going to continue to dive into different aspects of the Lashawan Qadash for us to be able to get back the understanding and the knowledge of who we are as a people. As I've said numerous times before, every other nation have their culture, have their language. But blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, our culture, heritage, and language have been destroyed by our oppressors. All right, so with that being said, we have classes basically every single day of the week, throughout the week. For the local class, which is Trinidad camp, headed by Officer Galawan, Officer 5000, Officer Galawan. We have scripture breakdown on Sunday nights with Officer Galawan. On Mondays, we have the history class with Officer Makako Bal. Tuesday, we have Brotherhood with Officer Sawaf Ya'ala. Wednesday, we have law class with Officer Mafpayak. Thursday, we don't stream any local class, but we tune in and stream the scripture breakdown class with General Mahaiman. All right, so that's on Thursday night at 7 p.m. Also, after the scripture breakdown on Thursday, we have Cross the Line Radio with Captain Tazarek and Captain Kataza. Right, so where you can call in, get all the questions answered. Same thing as well with the scripture breakdown with General Mahaiman. On Fridays, we have the Lashawan Qadash, which is the local school, by myself, Officer Yakad, or as well other brothers you may see from time to time. On Saturdays, which is at 10 a.m., we have the Lord's Sabbath service, started at 10 a.m., which will be also done by myself as well as other brothers from time to time for the Sabbath service. Not to forget, on Monday nights as well, we have scripture breakdown with General Mahaiman, right? As well on Monday nights, right? And immediately after scripture breakdown on Monday nights, we have the Black Watch with Commanding General Yohanna, right? He has that podcast 3 times a week, which is on Monday nights, right? On Wednesday nights, and on Saturday nights, right? Commanding General Yohanna heads the nation of Israel right now. He runs Black Watch, which gives what? Full breakdown of what is actually happening, which is like Black CNN. You understand? So we get to see and understand what is exactly taking place. Understand from politics to crimes to what is happening to Israel at any given point in time. All right, so you can tune into Black Watch, join all the Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and all the other Facebook accounts YouTube and get everything up and running as how we're supposed to have it. Right, then we will continue to do and teach. Now, throughout the globe, we have in North America, schools in America, South America, in Europe, the UK, Alaska, in the Caribbean, as you can see here in Trinidad, as well as other areas. So tune in to ISUPK.com, contact the class or the place nearest to you. All right, wherever you are, go on ISUPK.com, look at the closest area, closest place to you, and then from there, then you'll be able to get in contact with us. If you have any questions, if you want to donate, if you want to do anything at all, you can go to our Facebook page, Twitter page, and get the relevant information, right, to be able to get in contact with us. Now, we're going to just dive in to the class, which is a really continuation from what we did last week, which is going into Leviticus 11, which we've given a description of the animals, of the clean and the unclean animals, giving their names of what are some of these clean and unclean animals, and some of the kind or family of these animals that we supposed to eat and what we're not supposed to eat. Right, so we'll go through that tonight as well. So, but as customary, what we will do is go through the alphabet as we have here, as is written the Lashawan Qadash, which means holy tongue. He is written from the right to the left. So when you read it from the right to the left, right? So Lashawan Qadash, right? Qadash means holy. Lashawan is tongue. So it's the holy tongue, right? So there's the Lashawan Qadash. The Hebrew characters, or what we call the alphabet, but really characters, is A, Ba, Ga, Da, Ha, Wa, Za, Ka, Ta, Ya, Ka, La, Ma, Na, Sa, I, Pa, Ta, Za, Kwa, Ra, Sha, and Ta. Right, so this is the Hebrew, right, script, Hebrew characters that we use, right, in our ancient language, in our customs, in our heritage. And when you go through all through the scriptures and in the archaeology, you will see that the Lashawan Qadash, or the ancient or holy tongue, some people call it Paleo Hebrew, is all over, right? This is where the basis of the holy languages are set upon. Even so-called English, you would see a lot of characters that are in English that they took from the Lashawan Qadash. All right, so with that, we're going to just give you a minute or so, take down the alphabet. Those who are tuned in for the first time, you can get this down. Right, as well. So we're going to take this off, and we're going to go into the lesson tonight, which is the Leviticus 11. Nice. So, Babukasha, Sabariat, could you pull Leviticus 11? All right, we continue from, I think it's verse 8, where we go through some of the unclean animals and see who they are and the names of them. Babukasha.
The book of Leviticus 11 and verse 8. For Their flesh shall ye not eat, and their carcass shall ye not touch. They are unclean to you.
Right, so just to get context here, let's go up one verse. So let's see who are these animals that we are talking about in the scripture that we should not touch. Right, when they die. When I say the carcass, it means when the animal is dead, the body of the animal is called a carcass. Anybody any person or animal that is dead, it's called a carcass. Continue.
Verse 7. And the swine, though he divide the hoof, and be cloven, yet he cheweth not the cud.
Right.
He is unclean to you.
Right. So he is unclean. And the reason why he is unclean is because, as we know, a lot of people don't understand that the Bible, the Most High God, used biblical principles, which is also scientific. A lot of the technology and a lot of the science that we have today, right, that the other nations have, they learn from us about quarantine. You understand? Not eating certain because they carry certain type of diseases. Not touching certain animals when they're dead because of what? Disease and contamination and viruses and all this other stuff. Not dealing with blood because blood is a contaminant. And you have a space of a particular amount of days when this infection could live. You understand? And in the scriptures we see here where the Most High gave us all these instances, all these qualities. For what? To protect ourselves. You understand? And we have to understand that the Most High didn't just give this up a women fancy. This was actual science. You understand that the Most High gave to us, right? Through the Spirit of the Most High, so that we can what? Live and be what? Above all nations on the face of the earth. So it wasn't just fly by night. There are certain things that you can eat that will be healthy to your body, and certain things that you would eat that is not healthy for your body. So that's why we got to stay away from some of these animals because of the consequences of these things that put into our bodies, right? So just to touch on that as well, Babakosha, before we continue, right? Just look at the amount of, if you can Google it, the amount of parasites or the amount of diseases that pork have and how it's transferable to humans, right? Most persons don't know that pigs don't have sweat glands. You understand? Pigs don't sweat. So, and usually when you sweat, for most humans or even animals, the toxins come through your pores, right, of your skin. So with that, because of how the pig is, they have a high level of toxic elements within their body, right? A pig is like a natural garbage dump, right? He's a natural trash can. That's what he's designed for. He eats everything that is not good or seems to be trash. Same thing goes with shrimp and crab, but one is for the land, one is for the sea. Same thing with catfish. They are what called bottom feeders. So a pig is like the bottom feeder on the land, right? So same thing goes for the crayfish, shrimp, crab, catfish, all these type of animals. All right. So, but because if you have it up, we just get it and then we take it from there.
So here, it's how many common parasites in pork. This trichinosis common
Right.
in the United States. Trichinosis used to be more common and was usually caused by ingestion of uncooked pork. However, infection is relatively rare.
Right. So let's read it over one more time.
Is trichinosis. common in the United States.
Right? Is it? So like it was common, very common in the United States. Because why? You know the US, especially the so-called oppressor, so-called white man, consumes a lot of pork. Right? Pork or bacon is like the national dish. For those in the US. Go ahead, sure.
Yeah, so like yes, just adding a couple of things that I researched on the one part did a class.
Right.
3 weeks.
Right.
Already and next thing is carries pork. I think it's tape pork. Tape pork worms. And one of them, well, they're not doing any vital organ on your body. They're not killed by heat. So, contrary to what they say in terms of cooking pork, it doesn't do anything to these things on them are to the wounds. Right, yeah, to heat. So they survive even if you cook it, or no matter how hot a degrees. And it can go in your brain, it can go in your heart, it can go in your eyes. And one of them just lay more than 50 million eggs.
Look at that.
And they could live up to 25 years in your body.
So, all that from what? Eating pork. That the Most High say you're not supposed to eat. So, this is not just some fly-by-night. The Most High gave us these instructions for a reason. Because these things will affect our body and our mind. So just imagine you have a worm or parasite worm that can live in your body for 25 years, eating out the insides, sucking out all your nutrition from your body. All because what? You love pork. You understand? Which is against the laws of the Most High. Continue. If you have any more on it?
Yeah. Right. How many parasites are in pork? There are 3 important parasites found in pigs, which pose a risk to humans.
That pose a what?
Risk to humans.
Right, so it poses a risk to humans
who ingest raw or undercooked pork.
Right, raw or undercooked pork.
Yeah, of course we know that's not completely accurate because a doctor came out and said that is not true.
Right.
These parasites are
Trichinella.
Yeah,
right.
spiralus.
Right.
Nematode. Ringworm. Lium, a tapeworm, and 2 oxplasm gold, a protozoan, a single-celled organism.
Right. So it was just basically giving a description of the type of worms that lives in pork. That when you eat, you ingest that pork, that gets into your body, and that parasite lives in your body. Right? What are the other parasites?
Yes, the pork tapeworm, Pterina solium, belongs to a whole Libya host family. It is found throughout the world and is most common in countries where pork is eaten. It is a tapeworm which has humans as its definite host.
See, as its what?
Definite host.
As its definite host.
And often pigs as intermediate or secondary hosts.
Right. So the main goal of this parasite is to get into humans.
Yeah.
And how they get into humans? What? Pork. You understand? And that is what really happened. Well, that was it on that?
Yeah.
Alright.
How about yes, man? Yeah. Right. It may be transmitted to pigs through human feces, contaminating their fodder, and back to humans through consumption of pork that contains tapeworms. Pigs ingest tapeworm eggs, develop into larvae.
Right.
Then us so peers and ultimately into indefinite tapeworm cross. And ingested tapeworm cross grows into an adult worm in humans.
Right, so you see, you clearly seeing that this, I just pork. You understand? And as you go around them, you'll be able to see the type of other sicknesses or diseases that you can get by eating these unclean meats. Understand? And the book of Leviticus gives us a rollout of clean beasts and unclean beasts and the families of these clean beasts. So as we go through, we'll go through some of these and we'll understand the local names for some of the animals that we have in Trinidad that is clean and unclean. Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Barry.
Yeah, so I feel so, when you look at some of the places that these pork tapeworms could end up and start basically, because it have cases where they end up in people's brains, people's eyes. I don't even think it had these surgeries down here for that.
Yes. And that's the thing. Yeah. So you end up, you understand, full of sickness and disease because what? Because of your lust for pork, which the Most High tell you not to eat. All right, so let's go back to Leviticus 11.
Yeah. Verse 9?
Yeah.
Book of Leviticus 11 and verse 9. Ye shall ye eat of all that are in the waters, whatsoever hath fins and scales in the waters, in the seas, and in the rivers, them shall ye eat.
Right, so it says, read it one more time. These are the.
These shall ye eat.
Right, so these ye shall eat. So now we transition from the land to what? To the waters. Well, continue.
Of all that are in the waters.
Right, so all that is in the waters.
Whatsoever hath fins and scales in the waters, in the seas, and in the rivers, them shall ye eat.
So as we know, what the animals that are predominantly in the seas, in the waters, in the rivers is what? What we call fish, right? Now there are some mammals in the that live in the ocean, live in the seas, live in the rivers, right? But those are the mere exceptions. But predominantly we have what? Fish or fishes that live in the seas, rivers, lakes, etc. And the Hebrew word for fish is dagar, right? Dagar, which is dagar, which is the Hebrew word for fish. So that was just to get that better understanding because it doesn't directly say fish there. But as you know, the word fish is throughout the scriptures, right? So that is fish. The Hebrew word for fish is dagar, But how they say, right? Read it one more time, Babu Bishop.
Book of Leviticus 11 and verse 9. Ye shall eat of all that are in the waters, whatsoever are fins and scales in the waters, in the seas, and in the rivers.
Right.
Them shall ye eat.
Right. So them you shall eat, and the word eat is kal. Right. Okay. Yeah. All right. Right. So a kal is to eat. So what has fins and scales? So the word for fin or fins in the Hebrew is sanapaya. 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 Always remember the connectors to put in relation to the connection of the word. Right? So sanapaya, that is fins, and the word scale or scales, okay, is kosha. That is scales. So a description of some animals or some fishes that have fins and scales would be what? Somebody.
Fishes that have fins and scales.
These are the lawful, clean fish to eat. Redfish, salmon, brochet,
carrot.
Right, they are carried. Power. Now, Salakia, some of these names are the so-called local names of some of the local fishes. Some persons online may not know it, but for those locally for Trinidad and in the Caribbean, some of these names are very common, right? So most persons know salmon, right, and redfish, right? Those are like common throughout the world, right? As well as what we call the brochet, which is a different type of fish. It's a more kind of bony type of fish. The other one you call was a carrot, right? The carrot is a more slender type fish, right? Has some fine scales, right? Has scales on it as well. You call the power, right? The power have a different type of fish as well, like the local name. Now they have the power. Some people have them as is more look like what we call something like an angel fish. It looks like a so-called angel fish, but it's like a bigger or different breed, right? So all these would be common names, right? Go on, you have any more that you have in mind?
Mullet.
Right, we have the mullet, which is another common fish throughout the world and all different seas, whether the Caribbean, Atlantic, Pacific.
Swordfish.
Right, we have the swordfish. You call them swordfish, right? I think kingfish. Right, I'm not sure. I can't for kingfish.
Herring.
Right, herring. Right, so we know herring is also another very common fish that is in the seas, in the waters here in the Caribbean. So that is something that is very much common on this side. So we have those that have fins and scales. Fins is sanapaya, and scales is kosha, right? That is scales. And also, continue in the middle of the verse.
Whatsoever hath fins and scales,
right,
in the waters, in the seas, and in the rivers.
Right, so whatever have fins and scales in the seas, go ahead.
And in the rivers.
And in the rivers.
Them shall ye eat.
So them ye shall eat. So in the seas, or to be more specific, water is mayam. Right? Mayam, that's a Hebrew word for water. Right? So we have mayam, which is waters, so that it will be easily seen. But the word seeds is yam, right? So we have waters as mayam and sea as yam, right? From the same root word. So let's put it up on the to be see more clear is in the Blue Letter Bible Dictionary. Right, so let's pull up, this is Leviticus 11, and we look up the word seas. Right, so we will be able to see the word. Let me see if we can make it shareable. Right, so the Hebrew word should be able to see it. Right, so the Hebrew word for seas is yam, and the Hebrew word for water is mayam. Right, and also the Hebrew word for river is nakal. See if I get the shadow. Right, it's nakal. Right, so that's rivers. So we have waters, mayam, seeds, yam. Right, so mayam is waters, yam is seeds, and rivers is nakal. Nakal. Right, so those are the Hebrew words in relation to water, seas, and rivers. So I'll give you all a minute again so you can take that down. And then we'll be able to move on to the other aspect of that passage of scripture, as well as that was it for that particular verse. We have more.
Yeah,
That is for that particular verse. Most times, right. Right, so guys, but we shall read it over one more time so we get the full context of that particular verse.
Book of Leviticus 11 and verse 9. These shall ye eat of all that are in the waters, whatsoever had fins and scales in the waters,
Right.
in the seas, and in the rivers, them shall ye eat.
Right. Right, so them you shall eat. Continue.
Verse 10. And all that have not fins and scales in the seas and in the rivers, of all that move in the waters, and if any living thing which is in the waters,
Right.
they shall be an abomination unto.
So these all that don't have fins and scales, guess what? They will be what?
An abomination unto.
They will be an abomination. And so let's get the context of the word abomination to get the meaning of it. So I'm gonna take down this. So you get that word, the meaning of abomination.
It's from the Merriam-Webster dictionary.
Right.
Something regarded with disgust or hatred.
Something regarded with what?
Disgust or hatred.
Disgust or hatred. So, the Most High telling you that these beasts, these animals, should be regarded with what? Disgust and what?
Hatred.
Disgust and hatred. So, these are the things that should be abominable to us. When you see that, you must be like, nah. You understand? You must be like, it must be repulsive to you. You understand? No, this must say this must be repulsive in the aspect of you wanting to eat something like that. So, like some of the Christians would use, for example, in the New Testament, in the book of Acts, I think it's Acts, where Peter got the vision and say, well, Peter kill and eat. But because I don't know if you could pull that from a fast second. So the Christians would use this note to justify eating everything under the sun. Right, so but not knowing these things are abominable to us. I think it's part of Acts 10.
Right. Right. Verse 9. The book of Acts 10 and verse 9. On the morrow, as they went on their journey and drew nigh unto the city, Peter went up upon the housetop to pray about the 6th hour.
Right.
And he became very hungry and would have eaten, but while they made ready, he fell into a trance.
He fell into a trance.
Verse 11. And saw heaven open, and a certain vessel descending unto him, as it had been a great sheet knit at the four corners.
A great sheet knit.
Yeah, knit.
Right.
At the four corners. And let down to the earth, wherein were all manner of four-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, and creeping things, and fowls of the air. And there came a voice to him, Rise, Peter, kill and eat. But Peter said, Not so, Lord.
What you say?
Not so, Lord.
Right. So why I think Peter said that?
Because he know the laws concerning clean and unclean.
That's right. And because Peter knew understand that, and Christ also taught the law, he not understand that this is not something wrong. And that was the statement he made. I've never eaten anything what?
Peter said, Not so, Lord.
Right.
For I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean.
Right. That is common or unclean. So all the bad You understand? He started backpedaling. See now, this vision real strange. This funny because we don't deal up with this. So all of a sudden, this vision come now, you're telling me kill and eat. Nah, I don't deal up with this. We don't deal up with this. And how much time that vision came to?
And the voice spake unto him again the second time, what God hath cleansed, that call not thou common.
Right.
This was done thrice, and the vessel was received up again into heaven.
Right. So Christians like to use that now to say here what? All manner of four-footed beasts, creeping things, so a snake, donkey, all kind of thing you can eat now. Right? And if you can eat anything, then you can eat what? You can eat me. Chop off my hand, try the barbecue sauce, roast him. You understand? But that scripture was not talking about that. That scripture was talking about what? The nation of Israel, those who were cast off from the nation of Israel. Those who, the so-called Jews who were living in Jerusalem, that they were Gentiles, they were unclean. They got up a self barrier.
Yeah, next one they like to use too is all creatures are good to be eaten.
You're eating to be. You understand? Oh, they love to say that. But the only reason they say that because why? They do not understand the scriptures. This book was written for blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. You know, it was really that culture is still in black, Hispanics, and Native Indian study, where the context of when we do and say certain things, if people don't understand who we are, they will miss it completely. Right? I was reading a post the other day on Facebook, and that post was some people use the word, if everything's straight. You understand? Saying you're straight could mean a million things in the black community. So I could bounce a bit, hey, we see my everything straight? That means everything good. Me and you could be having a quarrel. So I'm your straighter. You understand? Then it could be like, what going on? You understand? So it has plenty different contexts. Like down in the Caribbean here, we just say everything good. We saying you're good. We could now scramble box off each other's face. You're good. That means if you want to continue to fight, or you understand, you could now quarrel. You're good. Same thing. Or it could be, you stub your toe. You're good. It could be like you're feeling well, or you're not feeling well. So it has plenty context in terms of understanding these scriptures. And when you learn these scriptures from what? From our oppressors, they don't have a clue what they're talking about. That's why, like, if now we ask somebody for some bread. Hey, the boss always see buying things real hard, man. Where's some bread now? Now, a white man might hear that, or a so-called oppressor, or a Chinese, whoever else might hear that and figure, well, he wants literal bread. But that bread could be money. You understand? Go ahead up for some, Barry.
Yeah, so I see something we are saying, man, watching on the I can't movie, but it was three Negro guys.
Right.
And a white, well, I need a white man. And right. One pass and they say, oh, she wet boy.
You understand?
And the white man said, I don't see any water.
So you see what we're doing? Yeah. So something as simple as that. Yeah. We saying that thing real wet. Yeah. We know we're talking about the style or the flair of it. Yeah. Or what she said, wait, that woman, she wet boy. Yeah. That could be what? She's sexy. Yeah. You understand? Or she real wet boy. That could mean that she looking sloppy. You understand? So it a real context in terms of how blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians speak. And these scriptures and our language that has been spoken in these scriptures is just the same way. Right? You're talking about the scriptures on context. They talk about don't bring any higher of a dog into the temple. You understand? A man might think that's puppy, but I wasn't talking about that. A dog in the ancient times in our language and our slang was what? A homosexual. So don't go and prostitute yourself and come and bring that in the temple. You understand? Don't be no homosexual. Right? That is an abomination. Like we said here, as you have the word here, abomination. Something regarding with what? Disgust. You understand? You don't want to partake. Right? So as jumping back to the lesson, the word abomination is shakwatazah. Right? So these foods that have or these animals that do not have fins and scales are an abomination to blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. We are not supposed to eat these type of animals, right? That don't have fins and scales. So some examples of animals that don't have fins and scales are like what?
Catfish,
Right?
shrimp,
Catfish, shrimp,
crab,
lobster,
octopus.
Yeah, they love the octopus. They love what is called again? What another name is called? The calamari? No. No. Caviar is the fish eggs. Yeah, I think calamari or something. If I'm not mistaken.
Squid.
Yeah, that's squid.
Yeah.
And that's octopus.
Octopus, they have a small one with quite smart as cell. With different unclean animals.
So they have an on-trade or unclean animals for eat.
Yeah.
You understand? Go ahead.
Yeah. What else? Puffer fish.
Right? Frog fish. Things like what? Eel.
Yeah.
You understand? Eel. All those are what? Scavengers. Sea snake. You understand? All these are things that are what? Unclean. You understand? And another thing that is unclean, well, I just a few of them. There was one, but we'll be able to get it.
Cascade.
Yeah, cascade. Speaking, cascade does have scale, right? But it's a bigger, thicker type scale than the regular scale. As far as I know, I see them scale cascade. Because when you see it in the shell, it's called like a shell or a scale. You kind of have a thick armor plate. You understand? But I will have to confirm on that. I'm really not sure. But based on what I observed so far when I pass and seeing them, them Elamites love cascade. East Indians love cascade. Right? So who knows? You know that they love anything unlawful. So it may as well be. So until further notice, it's unclean for me. Right? Until you check it out, verify it, then we'll be able to see for sure. So that would be those things are what? Abominable. Right? So that's abomination. Then we have unclean. Unclean is tama. Unclean. Right? So these things are what? Unclean for us to eat. Then we have, as we go through, some of the unclean animals that you can see. There's one which is what do you call them again? Some other unclean stuff, conchs. Right? We know them as conchs down here. Or sea snail. Some people know them as sea snails, conchs. Another name we have we call chip, oysters. All these things are unclean. They go to Sabaya.
And next big one too that been plenty. Omega XL is mussels.
Right, mussels. Right. So I mean, you have the Omega XL. I know there's used some sort of extract. Right. I don't think it's the actual flesh. Right. But again, you know how it is. It's like using pork for gelatin. You understand? Yeah, go ahead.
Next one too. He said he was getting some joint pain and was using who to use a product.
Right.
The other thing I read
the label.
The fine writing. That is Jameson joint care.
Right.
Clogosamine.
Yeah.
You have to be careful with that one.
Glucosamine or glucosamine?
Glucosamine, yeah. Glucosamine,
right.
It can make out of either corn or from the skeleton of shrimp and crab.
Right.
So you have to be careful.
So you know the skeleton of shrimp and crab?
Yeah.
The shell.
Yeah.
You understand? So, because it will be so-called high in calcium. So that when they use the crab shell, right, and or the shrimp shell to so-called make these medicine for joint pain, etc., etc., etc. Right. So those are some of the unclean animals in the rivers, seas, lake, pond, river. You name it. Anything that has a body of water, and those animals that are living in that are clean and unclean. One more big one that we in the Caribbean here is this run down to is shark. Right? They are the so-called infamous bacon shark in Maracas, Trinidad down here. Up to I think about a month ago, right? Right down on this end, some men like a shark came in swimming during the tide, and the tide get low. So the shark get trapped like a kind of sandbank now. And if you see how Jake and Elam run down and catch that shark, decided to hit the shark after that big stone. You understand? Then picking up big rocks to smash the shark head. And then they pull it up on land, and then, well, you know what we're on there. You understand? That is like a delicacy down here. Shark, right? Bacon shark or bacon catfish. That most people just get, because shark and catfish very similar in terms of meat and texture and stuff. So those are like the main things, right? In terms of the fish, right? As well as turtle, leatherback turtle, greenback turtle. We are not supposed to eat any aquatic turtles or land turtles in the first place, right? None of those. So those are just some of the animals and the families of these animals that we're not supposed to eat. So we was on verse 10 or verse 9.
We're on verse 10 now.
Right, go ahead.
And all that have not fins and scales
Right.
in the seas and in the rivers, of all that move in the waters.
Right, of all that move in the water. So it was very specific. So all that move in the water, so no conchs, no sea snake, no slug, no that is kind of how in the water it look like a spiky ball. No eel, no chip, no clam, none of those things we are supposed to eat. Because those things have their purpose in the sea. So when they go and they fish out and they drag up all the shrimp out of the ocean can't get clean. Right? When they drag out all the catfish and they drag out all the shark, then you have no population control in the seas. Right? Go ahead, Sabari.
Yeah, next one too, to be careful about too. They're using medicine now, sea cucumber.
Right, yeah. That's the next big one, sea cucumbers. Right, that is a delicacy in some areas, right, in those Asian countries. Right, sea cucumbers and all those European countries. Again, abominable stuff, and these are delicacies for them. And guess what? They bring these now and push it to blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. So much so, it's like taboo if you don't eat lobster. It's like, lobster is this big prize. I want to eat lobster, boy. That is shit, as we just call it. That is abominable stuff. We are not supposed to deal with this thing. You eating big shrimp pan. So your high class, right? Your white supremacist diet is shrimp, crab, and lobster. You understand? Shark, and all these abominable stuff which we're not supposed to consume. Right? Continue.
And of any living thing which is in the waters, they shall be an abomination unto you.
And any living thing. So no seahorse, no jellyfish. You see some of them Chinese like to do the same squid and octopus, eat it alive, roll it up on a chopstick, and try to swallow the damn thing down the throat. Some of them actually die, suffocate to death, trying to eat a live squid. How ridiculous and how stupid you could be to try to do that. Right? You understand? It's not unclean already, right? And you're eating it, but you want to eat it alive. I mean, you would look at some people are saying, would you eat a cockroach? They say, nah, cockroach, I will eat a cockroach. But a shrimp is a sea cockroach. You understand? Is a family of a cockroach. A lot of people don't know that. When you frying shrimp and eating, you understand? With the shit in your head. You understand? That is how destructive and how low we have reached. We'll be following these other nations and eating all this kind of abominable stuff. Right? So continue.
11.
Mm-hmm.
They shall be even an abomination unto you.
Right. So they shall be even an abomination unto us. Continue.
You shall not eat of their flesh, but ye shall carcasses in abomination.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 12. Whatsoever hath no fins nor scales in the waters, that shall be an abomination unto you.
Mm-hmm. Continue.
Verse 13. And these they which ye shall have in abomination amongst the fowls, they shall not be eaten.
Mm-hmm.
They are an abomination. The eagle.
The what?
The eagle.
The eagle.
And the ostrich.
Right.
The osprey.
Right. All those are what we call birds of prey. Right? Go ahead. That would be like your hawks, your seahawks, your chicken hawks, and stuff like that. Predatory birds. Continue.
And the vulture.
The vulture, we all know what is a vulture. Well, most persons know what is a vulture. We know them down here as kobo. Right? We call them kobo. Vultures are animals that eat dead animals. Those are the birds of prey that eat dead animals. Continue.
And the kid after his kind.
Mm-hmm.
Every raven after his kind.
Mm-hmm.
The owl and the night hawk.
Mm-hmm.
And the cuckoo.
The cuckoo.
Mm-hmm. And the hawk after his kind.
After his kind. So the Hebrew word for fowl, right, as the scriptures call it there, is I.W.A.P. Now some of these words may be interchangeable, right? So I.W.A.P could also be used as bird as well, right? So I.W.A.P, which is fowl, right? I.W.A.P, and bird in context, according to how it's being used, is tasapa, right? Tasapa, like bird. So we know a bird or a fowl is interchangeably in terms of an animal that flies, right? Now there are some fowls that are not exactly birds. So as we go lower down, we'll be able to see how these what we call flying creatures, right? So these flying creatures would be examples of animals that are not fowl, but are actually what? Mammals, right? For example, like what?
Example of unclean birds.
Of unclean flying animals that are not fowls. In fact, we will leave that there for now. So as we go in lower down, we will get those. So let me write down some of these birds I will call earlier on their Hebrew names. Right, so we have the eagle, and we know the eagle is very prominent in scriptures and is used in a lot of symbolism, metaphors and similes. Right, so the Hebrew word for eagle is nashab. right? It's Nasha. That is eagle, Nasha, right? The osprey, right? It is also a type of bird of prey, similar to the eagle. Is I.S.U.P.K. 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 There's the osprey. Then we have the vulture. Vulture, which is the R. All right. You have vulture. You have the kite, which is also a family of a bird of prey, similar to the hawk. Right. We have the raven. So we have the raven, which is Irab. So these are some of the very common birds. All right, so let's read over that scripture for me one more time, Baba Kusha.
And these are they which shall be in abomination among the fowls, they shall not be eaten. They are an abomination.
Right, so these are not to be eaten. So these type of birds and their families are not to be eaten. Right, those are from the same family group, right, from the same breed, as we would say. Go ahead. Read them out.
The eagle.
The eagle. So the eagle and all the family of the eagles, abomination. Go ahead.
And the ostrich.
Right. Ostrich or I think it's pronounced ostrich. Right. Ostrich.
Yeah.
Very similar. Go ahead.
The osprey.
Right. The osprey, which is also a bird of prey. Go ahead.
The vulture.
Similarly, the vulture, we call them cow down here.
The kite after his kind.
Kite.
The kite after his
because
kind.
a kite is a small version of a hawk, a different breed, but they call them a kite. Also a bird of prey. Go ahead.
Every raven after his kind.
Right. Every raven after his kind. Most persons know those ravens as like them blackbird. Right. So the ravens, well, in the US have some bigger type ravens. Right. We have some smaller versions of them down in Trinidad here. We call them blackbirds. Very small, very pesky, very territorial. If you come close to their nest, they would peck at your head. They would drop down on you. You understand? Oftentimes we have been very amused watching people get attacked by some of these birds. During school. At that time when he was young, we just sit down by the park, and there would be some trees, right? And these birds would nest in the trees. And as people walking, these birds would attack them, fly over their head, and try to pick them. Sometimes some of these women that are walking, they know that they hear or they're not. These birds would come and land in their head, and they wouldn't even know. So they walking, and this bird struggling in their ear until they realize, well, the bird is something. The bird claws stick up in the ear. You understand? So it was very amusing at that time. But the raven is that kind of bird. What?
That one next one is be pesky when you're cutting grass.
Right.
That one.
Yeah, those again very pesky. The white ones that come and start to look for stuff, grasshoppers and stuff. We call them like the stalks.
Yeah.
Right, it's a family with the stalk, and then the other type, that next black one,
Yeah,
that big,
black eyes.
Yeah, black eyes, big black beak.
Yeah.
He come in there look for grasshoppers and he that stuff jumping out of the grass. Right? So continue.
Yeah.
So I take this off. What is it called, Marius?
And the owl.
And the what?
And the owl.
And the owl. Right. So the Hebrew word for owl is Ya'ina. Ya'ina that is the Hebrew word for owl, right? Now, there are different breeds and different types of owls. So there are small owls, there are medium-sized owls, and then there are large owls, right? So as they go through the scriptures, you will understand and see. Go ahead.
And the nighthawk.
And the what?
The nighthawk.
And the nighthawk. So the Hebrew word for hawk, right, is kamas. Kamas. Like the Hebrew word for hawk. Now, the night owl is also again another breed, another type of owl. Hawk. Right? So that hawks that hunt during the day, and then there are those that hunt during the night. Right? So that's another Hebrew. Right? So this is ma. Right? The Hamas. Right? That is hawk. Continue.
The cuckoo.
Right?
And the hawk after his kind.
Yeah, go ahead.
The little owl.
So the little owl, right?
And the cormorant, and the great owl, and the swan, and what? And the swan, and the pelican,
and the what?
And the pelican, and the gay eagle.
And the gay eagle.
Lucky I said.
You go ahead.
Yeah, one of them, the swan, like family to something that popular down here, the duck.
Yeah. And you know that the love duck down here, right? Or the family of it. Other persons are not so. I don't hear persons talk about the pelican, which is the family, bigger version of the duck. You understand? Some persons do eat it down here. But even when I was in the world, I was never really a fan of that, of duck and stuff. In the past year, I did eat it, but I was never a fan of those type of animals. Right, so we have the pelican, right, the swan,
The gay eagle.
right, continue.
The stork, the heron after her kind, and the lapwing, and the bat.
The what?
The bat.
We call it lapwing.
The lapwing, and the bat.
And the bat. So, all these are what? So-called flying animals that we are not supposed to eat.
The most bat is where the city coronavirus comes from.
Alright, the Wuhan, China bat. Right? How Donald Trump said, the Asian flu. You understand? All because what? They cannot understand, comprehend in their mind that these things are what? Unclean. You understand? And General brought that the other day. I mean, how could we not understand and still continue to debate a dietary law after all we see and all the diseases that are coming from these animals? And when you eat your regular common stuff, no disease. But yet say we continue to go down that road of eating these unclean animals. Right? So the Hebrew word for is Yahannah, that is all. Then we have the hawk, right, which is Thakamas, which is the hawk, right? Again, there are different breeds, different type of hawks, right? The owl, different types of owl, the great owl, the night owl, the night hawk. So it was a transition between the different types of animals, those that roam during the day, those that roam during the night. So we will be able to go through every single one. Then we have the pelican, right? As you brought up earlier on, the pelican is the family, or one of the families of what we call ducks, or birds that have webbed feet, right? So any bird that have webbed feet is unlawful, right? Once they have that kind of webbed feet and those type of characteristics, they are unclean to us. Now there's another criteria of understanding these fowls or these flying creatures, right? So as they go through, you should be able to get the other characteristics of knowing which are unclean, which are clean and unclean of the fowl or flying or creeping things. Well, also like before we continue, we have the swan, right? The swan is also a family of the pelican, which is family of the duck, right? All of them have webbed feet, and it's Tanashamath. Tanashamath is the Hebrew swan. Continue.
And the stork.
And the who?
And the stork.
Right, and the stork. Now the stork is pretty common, pretty well-known type of bird, right? And the stork has throughout history has been used as a symbol for a lot of different stuff. In the later half of this century, a lot of people they used to fool the children, using the stork and say, they say where babies come from. They say, well, a stork, bring it in, this stork with a sheep with a baby child flying in, witchcraft. You understand? Telling lies to your children. Just tell them babies come by a man and a woman having sex. Like the way Christ came, as everybody else. Christ came when Mary and Joseph had sex. They made a child who was Christ. Don't deal, period. And no other way. No immaculate conception took place. Right? Right, so stork, well,
the heron.
The heron.
Of the whole kind.
Right.
The lapwing.
The what?
The lapwing.
Right, the lapwing.
And the bat.
The lapwing and the bat. So we have to find out what is the lapwing. Right? Most of us know what is a bat. Right? So I think you can pull up the second one was a lapwing. Again, like, share, and subscribe. All our social media handles. Wow.
Like a kind of seabird.
Is that? A seabird? Like a kind of sea hawk?
Yeah, let's see.
Right.
Something like that. There are two visions right here.
Okay, cool. Yeah, these are common. These are what we call these swamp birds.
Yeah, swamp birds.
Down here in Trinidad, they are very common. So those are the lapwing, right? So we can draw up a bigger picture of them. Right. So this is what we call a lapwing, or we call them river birds or swamp birds. They'll be in ponds, rivers, and stuff like that. So these birds are unclean. Right, we have grasshopper. Right, so you have the grasshopper, this guard. What verse we on?
Yeah, verse 20.
Yeah, continue.
All fowls that creep going up, all fours shall be an abomination unto you.
Right, so all that creep that go on what? All fours. So what animal that creep and go on all fours? That you know about from Samaria. Something that creep, a fly, creep and go on all fours. Very common, we talk about it already.
The bats is walking all fours.
Yeah. Very common, bats. And so those are, a bat is, when you look at how bats move, they can't fly, but they use the top part of their wing as a kind of claw, and they use that to climb and move in the caves and creep on the ground. Right, so that is the bats. So it's a lot. Right, so that is bat, it's a lap. That is bat. Right, so we have the creep and stuff, which would be the creep. First of all, in Hebrew is sharatazah. That is a creep. Right. Like a bar. Right, so that's I.S.U.P.K. So let's start it from the top. So continue. Or start over from the top of that verse.
All fowls that creep going upon all fours shall be an abomination unto you.
Right, so animals such as the bat and the lapwing and those kind of animals, but the bat is the one that's specifically creeping on all fours. You understand? And there are other animals that creep on all fours as well. Right? What other animals does creep on all fours? Some very notorious animals. I'm right here. Mouse. You understand? The mouse also creeps on all fours. And the mouse could also what? Stand up. You understand? So it's a mixture between being able to stand up on their hind legs and do the stuff and climb and stuff like that. So any animal that can climb and stuff like that, that's it. So the rat and the very common one down here like mongoose, ferrets, all these type of animals are those creeping type animals, right? That climb and go in the way, and monkey just climb and creep as well. What cats? Yeah, well, cats will be somebody is at all fours. I think it talks a little while about some of those animals as well. But for down here, talking locally, manikou out of the picture. You understand? We're not dealing with that. Because the manikou is a family of the mouse, which is I.S.U.P.K. Now, as we know, the mouse is a what's the other name for mouse, right?
Next one too, like down here, plenty mongoose.
Mongoose, yeah. So mongoose, manikou, rats, rabbits, all those things are unlawful. We are not supposed to be eating these type of animals, right? Because even though the other term or name they use for those type of animals is what? Rodents. They are all rodents, all family of that type of animal, right? So we're not supposed to be eating no rodent. So if you ain't going to eat rats, then you're not supposed to eat manikou. You're not supposed to eat rabbits. You're not supposed to eat anything of that kind. All right, continue.
It's 21. Yet these may ye eat of every flying, creeping thing that goeth upon all fours.
Right. So these are the flying, creeping things that go on all fours that we can't eat. Right? So the going on all fours means things that could creep or crawl. That type of stuff, right? Go ahead.
Which have legs.
Which have what?
Legs.
Which have legs. So all these things have legs, but they can creep, they can crawl, they can climb, stuff like that. Continue.
Above their feet.
Above their feet. So, continue.
To leap with all upon the earth.
Right, to leap all upon the earth. So, read it over from the top one more time so we get a clarity on these things.
Yet these ye eat of every flying, creeping thing that goeth upon all fours,
right,
which have legs above their feet.
Which have legs above their feet. So, what you understand by that context? That have legs above their feet.
Not talking like things like the locust.
Right. No, but the description, right? You remember they have legs above the feet. Right. So if you look in context here, foot, and then we have after.
Just have a leg.
So first of all, where your leg is. Right. And what's the other lower part? But you have your leg.
The leg is chin. It's so-called chin bone.
Shin or feet. Right. So you have your knee. This up here is your leg. Right? Then you have the lower part where your feet, the other flat part where is the bed. So these are the animals that could what? That have legs above their feet, right? That could bend. Now, watch the difference. Does a duck have a knee? You never pay attention, or some persons don't even notice. Ducks don't walk like that. Ducks waddle from side to side. Understand? So the animals that could bend their knee to leap. So if they need to fly, they could just push off like that, rather than you're waddling and try to make some, that kind of attempt to walk to fly off. So animals that waddle is like the duck, the penguin, pelican, the geese, swan, all those type of birds, right? They waddle, but they don't have no knees to bend their knee to push off to fly. Right? Continue.
Even these of them ye may eat.
Right.
The locust.
The what?
The locust.
The locust, because the locust can what? Spring off and fly. Well,
after his kind.
Right.
The bald locust.
Another breeder locust after his kind.
After his kind.
Right.
The beetle.
The what?
The beetle.
The beetle. Well,
after his kind. And the grasshopper. After his kind.
Right. So we can eat all these type of bugs: grasshopper, locust, beetle. Under this what description? So it has some that may not fit this description. Right. So once they fit this description, we can eat it, and then name these animals and the family of these insects. Right. Go ahead. Continue.
But all other flying creeping things.
But what?
But all other flying creeping things which have 4 feet.
Which have 4 feet.
Shall be an abomination unto you.
Right. So no elephant, no cat, no dog. All else have 4 feet. All them other,
But
no, in terms of like 4 feet, in terms of like four-legged animals like that. No lion, no tiger, no rhinoceros.
No, our next famous one down here that I like to eat is crocodile.
Right, no crocodile, no alligator, no tattoo, no lap, no booty, no lizard. You understand? No goanna, no eagle. We just say goanna down here. No iguana, no opossum, what you call manikou down here. All those things are what? Unlawful firstly. No tattoo, no armadillo, none of that. All those things are unlawful to us. Alright, continue.
But all other flying creeping things which have 4 feet shall be an abomination unto you.
Continue.
And of these ye shall be unclean.
Right. Drop down to verse 26.
Verse 26. The carcasses of every beast which divided the hoof and is not cloven-footed, nor cheweth the cud, are unclean unto you.
Right. So all the beasts or all the carcass, anything that dead, that don't fit this description is unclean to us. Go ahead.
Everyone that toucheth them shall be unclean.
Right. So once you touch it, these dead animals, the unclean things, so dog and cat and any of the other animals that have hoof, it's like horse and all them things. If you touch them, you'll be unclean for a certain period of time. Because as we know, that diseases, when an animal dies, they start to decay, and all these other diseases start to come up. All right, continue.
And whatsoever goeth upon his paws,
right,
among all manner of beasts that goeth on all fours, those are unclean unto you. Whosoever toucheth their carcass unclean until the evening.
Right. So when you talk about paws, you're talking about like animals like the cat, lion, dogs that have paws. Any animal that have paws and stuff like that, unclean. Right? Their carcass are unclean if you touch them. If you touch them with your bare hand. Now, if something is dead, you can use your gloves, you can use a stick, something to move them and carry them off without directly touching them with your hands. Right? So that is the main thing about it. Right? Drop down to verse 29.
Verse 29. These also shall be unclean unto you among the creeping things that creep upon.
Go ahead.
The weasel.
The what?
The weasel.
Right, we know what is the weasel. The weasel is something similar to the mongoose. Go ahead.
And the mouse.
And the what? The mouse.
The mouse.
So no rat. Go ahead.
And the tortoise.
And the what?
The tortoise.
So don't go and eat no turtle that no morocco. It's called a morocco down here. So no morocco for you to eat. No river turtle. No tortoise. Them thing unclean for us to eat. Right, go ahead.
And the ferret.
And the ferret.
And the chameleon.
Right, the chameleon is a type of lizard. Go ahead.
And the lizard.
Right, so no goanna, no mat, no alligator, no Komodo dragon. You understand? None of that we could eat. Go ahead.
And the snail.
No snail. Whether it's in the sea or it's on land, no snail. Go ahead.
And the mole.
Right. So just imagine the most try to tell us not to eat a mole, not to eat a lizard, not to eat a goanna. I mean, that's ridiculous. But you have to let us know so that we know that these things are what? Unclean, and we don't behave like what? These other nations. Go ahead, Survive.
Yeah, some particular sea snail, I can't remember the name of it, but it's a popular delicacy in Grenada.
Lambi?
Yeah.
Yeah, called lambi.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that big thing, that like conchs. But that's a different version of it. Right? So like conchs, the ones down here have a kind of round shell. That one have a kind of spiky. The shells look real nice. It look real nice. It's get real big, huge. You understand? But the lambi is like a big sea snail. You understand? So no sea snail, no oyster, none of that stuff. We are hard to have no part of these things. Think that was doing that? Yeah. Right, so again, like, share, and subscribe. Right. So as soon as you get a chance, go into the I.S.U.P.K.com, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Right. We have to do the sign in for the accounts. You need to log in on the attendance sheet. All right. That would go towards you being able to get your name, you understand, your Hebrew name, right? After you go your 90 days. Right, so you go drop those links in the chat, right, for all those who tuning into the class. Again, like, share, and subscribe to all our social media handles. And all this will go towards the process of you receiving your Hebrew name. All right. And with that, a party class on the priest and Officer Barrier.
Security announcements. We are the I.S.U.P.K out of 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under commanding General Yahanna. New rules for brothers and sisters. When a brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to shed themselves of the world. After 6 months, if a brother or a sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or a sister. If there is another 6 months in which a brother or a sister will court each other, after the 6-month period, a brother or a sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment, you can find this in Numbers 18 to 21 and Malachi 3, 8 to 10. Means tenth in Hebrew and is pronounced Ma'ashara. 10% of any penny the Lord gives you, or teacher, priest's fund, free will offering for priests, not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you would like to give. Upcoming holy convocation, Lord's Passover, the 14th day of the first month, Saturday, April the 24th, 2021. You can find this in Exodus 12, 1 to 51, Leviticus 23, 4 and 5, 1 Corinthians 5, 7 to 8, and 2 Chronicles 30 and 17. Remind Akim and Aquathium to check on social media such as ISUPK.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and so on for ISUPK events and materials. We are also on TikTok. If a brother wants to be a trooper in the school, then he is to start wearing all black, which includes black boots, like shirts, like pants, like headband or scarf. And with that we say, I imagine. Let's give the teacher one courtesy salute. I imagine Shabbat. I imagine Barak. Yawa Basham Yahushai Brakata.
Yawa Bashem Shalakata.
Yajumata. Let's give the sisters online one courtesy salute. I imagine Shabbat. I imagine Barak. Yawa Shema Latan Basham Yahushai. Yajumata. Class dismissed.